Hi there guys, Tom Quayle here for Sound Effects Premiere in Ormskirk. Now I'm here today to do a demo of an amazing little tremolo pedal. This is the Chase Bliss Audio Gravitas analog tremolo pedal. You can see we've got it here down on the floor, beautiful looking thing. Now we've done a few of these Chase Bliss audio pedals before and they've all been stunning, and this is no exception. Now for this particular demo today, I'm using this stunning Nags guitar, again available from Sound Effects Premiere. They've got a wide range of Nags guitars, all with these beautiful kind of double purfling and all sorts of amazing finishes. And I'm also running through a Roland Blues Cube amp, mic'd up with an SM57 running into Logic, basically. So that's my setup. Here's my clean tone. I'm using the neck pickup on this guitar, and it sounds like this. Okay, so just going to switch the pedal on and let you hear the basic tremolo sound that we've got running through this Gravitas pedal. Okay, so here we go. So a super analog, really smooth, beautiful, very transparent tremolo, okay? That's what you tend to get with Chase Bliss audio pedals, really great analog signal path, but with really cool digital front end that allows you to really control and tailor the sound and save presets, of course. So before we do anything else, let's check out what we've got on the pedal in terms of ins and outs and controls, and then I'm going to demo the various features for you so you can see exactly how versatile this pedal is. So, in terms of ins and outs, we've got general standard input, then expression control, input if you're using expression pedals. Then there is also a tap or MIDI function. You can buy a separate box which allows you to have MIDI functions via that unit, basically, if you use that particular input, or it functions if you've got a control switch. You can use that as a tap tempo function rather than having to use the tap on the pedal itself. There's your normal output. Okay, there's also obviously a 9-volt standard kind of power, center negative power input on there as well. And then in terms of controls on the unit, later on I'm going to show you the top of the unit here where all the dip switches reside. If you've ever seen any of the Chase Bliss audio pedals before, you'll know that there's an insane amount of control from the dip switches that are on the top. They used to be underneath, but the newer pedals and the new versions of the older pedals have them on the top. Then in terms of controls, we have a drive sort of control here, which also doubles as ramp, which we'll go through later. The drive is basically connected to a super transparent, lush sounding, clean boost that's on there as well, with some really nice opamps in there that really give a warm, lush sound. Volume control, okay, and then we've got tone control, which is basically neutral in the middle, and then we can boost or cut frequencies. And we've got rate control for our tremolo, and then we've got the modu shape section, which is on all of Chase Bliss Audio's pedals. We've got depth function, sway, which is basically where within the waveform the actual modulation occurs, so the center point of the modulation, I should say. And then we've got this modu shape controls in terms of the shape of the waveform, the front of the waveform and the back of the waveform. Tap tempo, and then a bypass switch, okay? These are all soft switches, which is really useful. And then we've got a preset selector switch, which basically allows you to store a couple of presets when we switch from left to right, okay? And then finally, this little switch here, this allows you basically to select different tap tempo rates between quarter notes, half notes, eighth note triplets, so on and so forth, and also between a standard tremolo and a harmonic tremolo, or a combination of both when the mode switch is on at the back. So I'm actually in standard tremolo mode at the moment, but I can switch between those because I have the mode dip switch engaged. So let's just go through some of the functions. First of all, this clean boost, okay? So we've got the pedal engaged here. Let's just check out what this boost gives us, this really nice transparent boost. So here's my clean tone again for comparison. Now as I engage the boost, let's push it all the way up and engage the pedal. Oops, watch out for that tremolo arm. So it's giving us a bit more push, basically. It's quite a subtle sort of effect, if you like, but it's giving us this beautiful transparent punch that you might lose actually if you use the tremolo. Sometimes you get this general dip in volume. So having that drive function on there is very, very useful indeed. Very, very cool. So that's the drive function. Now the volume function, generally what they say in the manual is keep that dimed basically. But you can, if you want, adjust the volume of the pedal using that particular feature. So I'll just show you that really quick. So obviously, it's pretty obvious what that does, but they recommend you set the volume all the way up and then adjust the volume with the drive control. Then you're using that transparent boost. Okay, the tone control. There it is boosted, so it's brighter. And then dipped all the way out, so we're cutting the highs. So a more kind of beefy sound. So let's set that to our mid position. Then we've got the rate control. This does exactly what you would expect. If we bring it up, it gets faster. Bring it down, obviously it gets slower. And we can have really, really slow attack on this particular pedal. So you can hear there how slow it will get. And you can obviously tap tempo that as well. Let me tune up a little bit. Now if I do tap the tempo in, simple as that basically. So that's a very useful function. Now, if the mode switch wasn't engaged, I could also switch between different tap tempo subdivisions using that switch there. But seeing as I have the mode switch engaged, we'll use that for a different function. Now the modu shape. Okay, so let's increase our rate using the actual dial there until we've got something in between fast and slow. A nice medium kind of tremolo. And again, listen to how lush that sound is. Just again, I'll show you one more time. Really, really beautiful analog tremolo sound. Really, really kind of pristine, but also kind of lush sounding. So the modu shape control. Now we've got depth. Let's do that first. Okay. Now what you might notice is both of our waveform intro and outro, or the beginning and end of the waveform, are set to a sine wave. This switch is further to the right. This switch is all the way to the left. That's giving us a more subtle kind of tremolo effect than if we had a square wave. Okay. So if we reduce the depth. Have a listen to this now, it's much more subtle. Almost to the point of not being able to hear the tremolo effect. Increase the depth, and we can shape the actual waveform. Hear that? Much more kind of subtle than what we had before. Now again, bring the depth all the way up, and obviously it's going to be more extreme. Still super musical, there's no hard edges on there at all, there's no kind of digitalness to it at all. Really beautiful sound. Now the sway, this is basically going to change the midpoint of the modulation. So at the moment our sine wave is going up and down, the center point of the sine wave is where the wave is highest, but we could move that left and right using the sway control. So if I turn the sway all the way up, I've got a bit of an emphasis, a bit of a kind of almost like a swing thing going on. Now if I bring that to the middle and then all the way to the left, hear the effect that's having on the waveform? So that's, again, fairly subtle, but gives us much more shaping abilities with the actual waveform. And again, we can make that less subtle depending on which waveform we select. So we'll keep the depth high, bring the sway back down, and then what I'm going to do is shape the waveform. So now I've got a triangle wave, because I've selected both the start and the end of the waveform to be a triangle. So this is now less subtle than the sine wave. Okay, as you can hear there. Now if I select square wave for the beginning and the end, have a listen to this. So that's literally like up, down, up, down, up, down. It's much more aggressive. Now we change the sway. Let's go all the way to the left. Hear the effect that's having. It's more like kind of like a synth style kind of almost like dance music kind of feel. Now we get sway all the way up. It's the opposite, it's kind of swelling in and then fading out much more quickly. So that's really cool. And we can combine those two. So we could have a sine wave beginning and then a square wave at the end, which gives us this kind of sucking feel. So if let's bring the rate down, okay? Really cool. So an absolute ton of functionality in relation to the shape of the actual tremolo waveform. And again, experimentation will yield all kinds of different results. And then you could store those as a preset if you like. The two presets that are in there at the moment, if I switch to the left, we've got this. And then to the right, we get this. Almost like a sort of broken record reversing kind of sound. Really cool rhythmic effects. Now, one more thing I want to show you. This button just here. You may be able to see we've got S, B and H under there, okay? When the mode switch is down on the back, one of the dip switches. Now, this is standard, harmonic, and then both tremolos. Now, just have a listen to the difference here. If we bring the depth up, let's select a sine wave, okay? And bring the drive up, okay? So we've got this as our basic standard tremolo. Let's pick... Now we can switch over to harmonic tremolo. Listen to the waveform feels slightly different. It's slightly more kind of less aggressive. Switch back to standard. And then back to harmonic again. And then we can have both together. Now that's a different sound, that's cool. It almost is giving us kind of semi kind of auto wah kind of feel if we speed that up. That's such a cool sound. So having that option of just being able to subtly change the feel and tone of the tremolo is something very unique. I've not seen that before. So what we're going to do now, as usual, now you've heard the pedal, you've seen the functions, we're going to tip the pedal up so that you can see the dip switches on the top, and I'll briefly explain what they do for you. So let's do that now. Okay, so here we are on top of the unit here. You can see these dip switches. Now, these look really intimidating at first, but they're really not. Basically, this section here, these dip switches, allow you to modulate any of the parameters of the pedal. So it's like the modulation matrix inside, the digital modulation, is going to allow you to modulate any of those parameters. And we've got volume, then we've got tone, rate, depth, and sway. Bounce is going to make the modulation go, if I put my finger in here, up and then back down again. If you don't have bounce off, the modulation will either rise and stay or fall and stay. I'll show you the difference. Mode allows us to go from our tap tempo functions where we can change the actual tap tempo subdivision to having to choose between standard, harmonic, and then both in terms of our tremolo, which we looked at previously. And then mode 2 by is basically momentary bypass. So as you push down on the switch and then let go, you can momentarily turn the pedal on and off without permanently turning it on and off. Okay, now these here, these parameters allow you to select whether the modulation rises or falls, okay, and allows you to assign things to expression pedals, okay. So we're going to deal mostly with this side here. Now I have the bounce function on so that our modulation is going to rise and then fall again. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to modulate the tone control. Okay, so here's our basic tremolo and the tone is set really high. So you can hear it's quite bright. If I now turn the modulation for the tone control on, check this out. So there you can hear how the signal got brighter and then darker as we were modulating the tone control, okay? So that's one option. Now you can have many of these on at the same time. If I do the rate, check this out. It's going to modulate the rate of our tremolo. Now if I turn the bounce function off, notice what happened. It basically fell and then stayed where it was. Now if I use the rise function for our rate, the opposite's going to happen. So you can hear it rose there in terms of the tempo of or the rate of the rate, if you like. And then it was, when it got to the highest rate, it stopped, okay, and it stopped modulating. Now that modulation starts every time you turn the pedal on or you change the dip switch. Okay, now we could do the tone and the rate and the depth at the same time. Okay, let's bounce everything so it goes up and then down, or rises then falls. Now those are sounds you are not going to be able to get from any other tremolo pedal. This is the only pedal that's going to allow you to do that. Now another cool feature, we can effectively have two tremolos because we can modulate the volume as well as doing the tremolo. Now at the moment it's really subtle because my ramp control, which controls the time, as we move further to the left like this or push down, it gets quicker. Absolutely crazy. If I bring that right the way down, check that out. Just incredible the amount of variation that you can have here. So that's what the dip switches do. They allow you basically to modulate parameters on the pedal, either rising or falling, bouncing, so they go backwards and forwards. You can choose between whether they rise or fall, and you can assign certain functions to expression pedals if you bring the expression pedal into the equation, even more options. So absolutely insane levels of control. That's the Chase Bliss Audio Gravitas Tremolo pedal. Hope you've enjoyed this demo, guys. My name's Tom Quayle for Sound Effects Premier, and I will see you next time.